In this episode, I'm going to be covering the questions that I ask every one of my clients when I get involved to create their brand. I have to get up to speed very quickly so that then I can design and develop their website or that new logo or all of it. And there's some questions, there's 18 of them that I ask every time to get clear about the brand. And honestly, it also helps the church leadership get clear about their own brand. Every single time these questions provide a aha moment where the church leadership is like, oh, we never thought about that. We probably should think about that. So I'm going to share these questions on this episode. You'll get a lot out of it. So be ready to take notes, or if you're driving, don't take notes. Come back later or check the show notes later on. We'll provide those questions for you on the website at churchbrandguide.com. So most people, they build a brand based on their preferences, based on their own opinions. And that's a really tough way to do it, especially if you have other people on your team. You might like blue and somebody else might like red and somebody else might like green. So who wins? How does that work? How do you figure that out? Well, the solution is to not focus on yourselves and your preferences, but to focus more on the people that you are pursuing and then make decisions in line with what they will be drawn to. This way you can bridge the gap between who you are and the people that you're pursuing. That's what great brands do. It's not about our opinions, it's not about our preferences, it's about what they want. What are they going to respond to? Let's do that. Let's lay aside our preferences and let's serve them really well. That's why I love branding when it comes to churches. It just helps us be more of who we are. We are servant leaders, and branding is really about how do we serve the people that we are trying to reach and to connect with. The result when we do this is that the brand will be attractive to a wide range of people because it will be clear. Clarity is attractive. When we confuse people, we actually lose people. So we need to be clear so that people understand who we are very quickly. And it's counterintuitive, but when we focus that brand, those colors, those fonts, and the logo design and all that stuff, when we focus it on a particular audience that we're trying to reach, it's actually more attractive to a wider group of people just because it has that clarity and that focus behind it. So I want to let you know that I am passionate about being your guide. In fact, the podcast, the Church Brand Guide podcast, is designed so I can help you on your journey of communicating your church and cutting through the noise so more people know about you in your city. So subscribe to the podcast. I'd love to just provide value to you on a regular basis. I also have a playbook that I would love to create for your church. This playbook allows me to review your church's brand, take a look at your logo, your website, and give you some feedback. What are you doing right? What are you not doing right? What can we improve on? And this playbook allows me to do that. You'll know what you need to do. So before you spend money on that new website or spend on the new logo design, let's go through this playbook together. Let me help you define your brand from a just an expert's perspective, an outsider's perspective. I don't know all the ins and outs of your church, but that's a good thing. Like I can come in and just let you know, hey, if you did this or that, it would help you get further faster based on the vision that you have. So it's a very, very small investment before you make those bigger investments to get that website built, those type of things. So the way you do it is just go to churchbrandguide.com, schedule a time to talk with me. We're just going to talk. I'm going to answer any questions you might have about this, about the branding process. And I'm just going to try to help you as much as I can. And then if we find out we are a good fit where you believe I can help you, then I'll get you scheduled to go through this branding playbook. And again, that's where I'll give you that report about your current church's branding and then provide you with a playbook with your next steps. So it'll save you on a lot of cost just by going through this upfront process. So churchbrandguide.com, schedule a time with me, and let's jump in there. So here's a list of the questions. Let's get into that. Again, this is going to provide a lot of clarity for you, and it provides a lot of clarity for my clients when I work with them. The first one is, what is your mission? Or another way to ask it is, what do you ask people to do? So this is like, not the vision, that's a different question. This is like, what do we do on a regular basis? Do we have groups? Do we have serve teams? Do we have, what are we asking people to do? Or do we have a membership class or membership process? Let's describe what that is. The second question is, what is the purpose? What is the why? What is the why behind our church? Why does our church exist? And again, this is designed to really make you think about your church from a different perspective. A lot of times we're insiders, we take it for granted. We know this, and so we don't try to communicate it because we already know it. But great brands are conscious that there are people that don't understand this and want to help them understand it. So again, when I'm asking a church these type of questions, are like, oh, it takes them a minute to figure out, like, how do I write this down? So take a moment and do that for your church. The third question, what is your vision? So what do you as an organization hope to create in the future? Like, where are you headed in the next 5 years? What's the vision? What's the vision that you have for your community, for those in the church, and describe that. The next question, number 4, what values and beliefs unify your staff and volunteers and drives their performance? So there's probably some specific values. One of the values that I remember being sticky to me is that I believe it was Life Church, Pastor Craig Rochelle. One of their values is that they will do anything short of sin to reach those far from God. So what are the values that you would say are unique to you and that drive your ministry? Let's write those down. Okay, next question. What is the result you have for somebody that attends your church? What is the result? Another way to put this in branding terms is, what is the brand promise? So if somebody comes to your church, like, what is the promise we have for them? What's the end result that we want? In a very simple, just one sentence, like, what's the end result? In our context here down in South Florida, we want to help people live a better story. So the result is living a better story. All right, let's go to the next one. What are the steps that you have to get them to the results? So every good brand has next steps. So what are your next steps? And it needs to be simple. Like, if you have a ton of things that you do as a church, like most churches do, how can you oversimplify it? So what this might look like is maybe you, step 1, come to church. Step 2, get into a group. Step 3, join the church. And step 4, serve on a team. Something along those lines. What are the steps that you have that gets people the result that they're wanting, that you're promising? All right, the next question. Who are you good at reaching to where they feel like the church was made just for them? This is our target audience. Who are you really good at reaching? Is it families, people with kids? Is that what it is? Is it business people? Maybe it's young adults. Maybe you're in a city where it's got a big university and you want to reach out to young adults. But who is it that you are very good at reaching? And again, with a brand, it's not about saying no to people. It's just about focusing, having focus. All right. What does your church do better than anyone else? Anyone else, meaning churches and non-churches. Like, what is the one thing that you do better than anyone else? This might be aspirational. Maybe it's not there yet, but this is the one thing you want to do really, really well. And it could be refined to your location. So, like, we want to be our church, or churches that I work with, they might say something like, we want to be the very best church in our city, the very best place in our city at developing relationships. Maybe that's a need that they can fill really well. They have small groups. They have all the other things that bring people together. So they might be the best in the world at reaching the city of Sunrise, Florida, and helping people to create connections, something along those lines. What values guide your organization and decision making? So again, this is part of the values question. It's the second part of that value question that we had earlier. So what are some of those values that you have that are unique to you? Some church might say that saved people serve people. So they want to move people towards serving and being involved in the church. But what are those values that drive or guide your organization? List all the programs that allow you to do ministry. So when I'm coming in to work with a church, I really want to know what are the things that you do as a church so that we can make sure that we brand all of it properly and clearly. Why does your church exist? Ooh, that's a good one. Another way to put it is, if your church disappeared tomorrow, what would people miss? Like, so why does your church exist? What would people miss if your church disappeared tomorrow? The next question, what are some words that describe the personality of your church? So if your church was a person, what would be the personality? Would it be welcoming, warm, friendly, hopeful? What are some words? Just list out some words. This allows me as a designer to choose colors and fonts and different things that reflect that. So very, very helpful to have that personality defined as a brand. And it also helps people to connect with you. Like it makes you more personal, but it's not an organization. It's more of a community. It feels more friendly. If you could do or be anything in the future, what would it be? So again, we're looking ahead, working on that brand that's aspirational towards where we're going. Why would someone who is unchurched want to attend your church? Why would someone who is unchurched want to attend your church? That's a good one. Most churches want to reach people that don't know Jesus. Just about every church does. So let's ask that question. Why would somebody that doesn't know Jesus, doesn't come to church, want to attend your church? If you could communicate a single message about your church, what would it be? So that's being concise. There's a lot of things about your church that are great, but if there's one message, what would that message be? What do you celebrate as a church? That's a good one. Could be baptisms, could be salvations, could be people that go on missions trips. Debate based on the DNA of your church. What is it that you celebrate? What are the potential barriers to your success? So it could be maybe a pandemic that shuts down everything. It could be something different. Like, what are the potential barriers to your success? Let's take a look at the church from 360 degrees. If something happened, if your building got destroyed, if you couldn't use the internet any longer, like, what are potential barriers to your success? What other churches do you admire most and why? So let's take a look at some churches maybe that are further along than you or just are doing something in a way that you admire. So let's take a look at that. Again, if I'm coming in working with a church, it's good for me to see some related churches that I can pull inspiration from. And it's good for you as a church leader to also know what those churches are. Write them down and just kind of know what they are so that as a church, you can kind of go in that direction as you build things out. What non-church brands do you admire most and why? So this is a great one. A lot of times I like to ask it in context of like what people in your church who love your church, like what are some of the brands that they wear? What are some of the brands that they drive? And why do they wear that or why do they drive it? So like driving, they might drive a Mercedes-Benz. Maybe that's what your target audience. So it means a lot. That says a lot about who that target audience is. They're probably a professional of some kind that's, they've got a pretty good income. They like classy things that are elegant. So we can shape a brand in that direction if that's the case. And that's way different than if somebody was, let's say they chose that a Honda Civic, that's the brand that they admire. Or maybe somebody has a brand that's from Walmart, the Old Glory brand from Walmart versus a Louis Vuitton, on the other side of that spectrum. So what does it say? What do those brands say about the church that we're building, the church, the people that are in the church? So again, really good questions that take a look at the church from a different perspective. So what non-church brands do you admire most and why? And then the final question is, how do you market your church? So we want to build a brand that allows you to be marketable in the way that you market your church. If it's on social media, we want to make sure that we create a brand that's very marketable on social media. If you're doing YouTube, if you're doing printed materials, if you're doing conferences, those type of things, we just want to make sure your brand is marketable in the way that you market your church. And also a lot of churches don't even think about this. They're focused on ministry, and that's great. Like as a church leader, that's awesome. That's exactly where I want my pastor to be focusing on, or my church leadership, the church that I go through, or my family goes to. That's awesome. But as a consultant coming in, working with a church, I want to ask that question. How do you market your church? Like what is the plan to get the word out, to make sure people in the community know that you exist? What does that look like? And let me help you amplify that and do that really well. So again, hopefully these questions help you as you're thinking about your church's brand, and it helps you to shape something that is going to be attractive to people. and help people take some next steps within the church context. Well, that wraps it up for this episode. Again, ask some great questions about your church, and you'll get further faster than if you're just in your own head going towards your own opinions. Let's look at it from an outsider perspective by asking the right questions. Well, hey, thanks for joining me on this episode. My name is Michael with Church Brand Guide. I'd love if you would leave a review on this podcast so that more people can be served by it. Also, subscribe if you haven't done that already. Also, check out our YouTube channel and make sure you go to churchbrandguide.com and check out what we have for you there, including some great case studies showing you what brands look like, great brands look like that we have worked with. So that's some great stuff on our website at churchbrandguide.com. Thanks again for joining me. My name is Michael, and I'll see you on the next episode.